Why does it seem so difficult to manage and control your ruminating thoughts coming out of an abusive relationship or any traumatic experience? Well, it comes down to three very important things. Number one, addiction. Number two, boredom. And number three, obsession. Let's talk about how these three things are related to your ruminating thoughts. My name is Kevin, and this is The Royal We. Now, before I continue with this very important message, I want to let you know that I'm here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I do take telephone calls, and I take video calls. So if you're looking for a one-on-one session to help you overcome your addiction to ruminating thoughts, schedule some time with me. I'd love to talk with you. Also, I do have a coaching program. My coaching program is live and in person each and every day, Monday through Friday. The Royal We community is a community founded on coming together and holding each other accountable to break the chains of trauma bonds, to go no contact, and to move into a toxic-free 2023. So if you're looking for a community to become a part of, then join the Royal We community. There's all kinds of good things happening, including meetups in the near future. So you don't want to miss where the Royal We is going. All right. Now, when it comes to understanding why it's so difficult to eliminate ruminating thoughts from your life, we have to understand and pay attention to how closely related ruminating is to, number one, addiction in your life. Now, addiction has a bad rap, and it probably should, because most people are addicted to very toxic, damaging things in life, including alcohol, including, drugs, including sex, including food, all kinds of addictions. But what most people don't realize about addiction, and this is why addiction is related to your ruminating thoughts, what most people don't realize is that addiction is not necessarily to the substance. Addiction is not necessarily to alcohol, nor is addiction to drugs, nor is addiction really to sex or food or a narcissistic person or your ruminating thoughts. What the addiction is to your own biochemistry. It's to the chemicals that is produced in your body as a result of engaging with your ruminating thoughts. Just the same as somebody who is drinking or somebody who's doing drugs or somebody who's engaging in an overwhelming amount of sex or food. What's really happening is there's a thirst and a hunger for something that's naturally produced in our own body. Three very important key neurotransmitters that I want to mention briefly happen to be adrenaline, which includes epinephrine. And there's also endorphins, and there's serotonin. All you have to do is go and do some research about what these chemicals within your body do for you. You'll discover that they are absolutely needed. They're necessary. These are God-given pieces of your life that make you who you are. If you didn't have adrenaline, epinephrine, endorphin, serotonin, well, then you'd just be a rock. You'd have no motivation to do anything in life. Because we produce these chemicals, we are potentially all addicts. And this is why I'm bringing them up. You see, your body's hungry for these things. Your body's thirsty for these chemicals that your body produces. Why is this related to your ruminated thoughts or your ruminating? Because somewhere, sometime, at some point in your life, you started to starve your body of experiencing these chemicals. It's the best way I can put it. I've heard this time and time again. People will say, Kevin, when I met the abusive person, I was on top of the world. I had a great job. I was surrounded by loving people. Everything seemed good. And then I got involved in this abusive relationship with a narcissistic person. And I don't understand. Listen, you can have everything in life. You can have all the money. You can have all the success. You can be surrounded by love and yet still be starving for endorphin, serotonin, adrenaline, because you're no longer challenging yourself. You can be bored, which is the next one I'm going to talk about. But out of this place, you're starving yourself of your own biochemistry. And as a result, the narcissistically abusive person in your life reintroduced you to the reality that you need these chemicals in your life. And now that you've gotten rid of that person because they are dangerous, just like any alcohol, any drug, they're a dangerous person for you, you're still hanging on to the memories. Why? Because the memories, which we call ruminating, replaying the experiences, it does what? It fills your body with the same biochemistry. So for many of you, you'll notice that when you ruminate, you actually feel the energy in your veins. You can feel the adrenaline pumping through you, just replaying the old traumatizing event, can't you? You can feel yourself get angry. You can feel yourself get welled up. You feel this energy. That's the adrenaline and the epinephrine pumping through your veins, which is an indication that your body doesn't know how else to get it. Do you see now how for X amount of time in your life, you stopped allowing your body to experience these natural things that you need? So up to this point, why it's so difficult to stop ruminating is because your body may not have any other avenue to experience adrenaline, epinephrine, endorphins, and serotonin. So if you're not going to allow your body, if you're not going to manage to experience these things, then your mind's going to do it for you, and it's going to gravitate towards the last experience where it received these chemicals, where these key neurotransmitters in your life were actually kicking, and it's going to be that abusive relationship. And this is a big part of why it's hard to stop ruminating, because you're allowing yourself to feel. So now let's go into the second one, boredom. Boredom. One of the things that you're going to realize is that outside of that abusive relationship, your life had become complacent and boring. And I'm not trying to come at you sideways. I'm just saying, in my experience, in my own personal life, and with all of the phone calls that I've made throughout the years and I've had with clients, it comes down to trying to sort out where a person is. When you have a one-on-one appointment with me, we don't just sit and talk about the narcissistic person. All right? If you just want to gripe and complain about a narcissistic person, don't schedule time with me. I'm not interested in your narcissistically abusive person. I've dealt with narcissistically abusive people. I've dealt with enough bullies in my life. I don't need to hear all those stories. I'm interested in you. I'm interested in where we're at and why we got caught up in the abusive relationship to begin with. And that's the focus. And of everybody and all the experiences and all the phone calls that I've taken, ultimately what it comes down to is I see where people have just become complacent. I did in my own life. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have a lot of money. It doesn't mean that you're not successful at work. It just means you stop challenging yourself. You can have all that stuff, but be absolutely bored in your life. You can have great position at work. You can have great loving friends and still be bored because you're not challenging yourself. Listen, we all need and require different things in our life. There's a different measure given to each and every one of us as to what will satisfy our need or our ability to produce adrenaline, epinephrine, the biochemistry that we need. Some people need to experience a lot, right? They go out and they jump out of airplanes, or they go halfway to the moon holding a Red Bull can and jump without a parachute. Adrenaline junkies. These people have figured out, listen, I have this high threshold, this high tolerance, and this is how I need to get adrenaline in my life. The important thing is that they're not bored, right? At some point, you and I, in our mundane, whatever you want to say, existence of going to work, going home, going to the same bars, meeting up with the same people, we've become complacent. You become bored. So I don't want to beat this down too much, but you're just bored. This is why it's so hard to stop ruminating thoughts. You've become bored with your everyday living. The only way to break that is to, right, get your life back on track. So first thing we talked about is addiction. You're addicted, and you're addicted because you're bored in your life. It's important for you to understand that. Number 3 is you're obsessed. Obsession is obviously a result of not only being bored, but the addiction. You're obsessed with thinking about the abusive relationship. You're obsessed with ruminating because it allows excitement. Listen, you can hate the abusive person in your life. You can, just like you can hate a drug, you can hate the alcohol. And I'm sure all addicts do. They hate the alcohol. They hate the drugs, but they're obsessed. Why? Because it produces the feeling that they're looking for biochemically. It engages them in that way. So this is why they're obsessed with getting their next fix. The same is true with your ruminating thoughts. You can become obsessively interested in getting stuck in your mind because of what it does to you biochemically, because of the addiction, because you're not challenging yourself in any other way. Again, I said this before, but you are designed by nature, we as people, we are designed to be out. Listen, our ancestors were running from wild animals while trying to get something to eat. Our ancestors didn't know from one day to the next who they were going to come across, who they were going to have to fight, what they were going to have to do to survive. They had no problem feeling and experiencing biochemistry. They had no problem not being bored. You and I, in this culture and in this world that we live in today, as I said, we wake up, do the same job, hang around the same people, look at our phones, we've gone numb. So your body is thirsty, you're hungry for biochemistry, which means now that you've experienced it in an abusive relationship, you become addicted to it. Out of boredom, you keep ruminating about it, and you're obsessed with it because your body forgot that there's more ways to get it. So how do you break all of this? Well, the bad news is, of course, looking at it as though you're an addict. The good news is that now that you realize this has everything to do with your need for your own biochemistry, it's awakening your system. All right. The good news is now you can start to plan and project a life that includes and manages in a healthy way your production of all this biochemistry. You can start to plan trips. You can make arrangements to jump out of an airplane. It's time for you to start to sort out what you need specifically to feel fulfilled in this life. That's the good news. Now you have the possibility and the power to regain control of your life, to satisfy your thirst and your hunger for your own biochemistry, serotonin, endorphins, adrenaline, right? So the narcissistically abusive people have stolen it from you, have hacked into your system. Now you can redirect your system, now that you're aware of it. If you'd like to know the steps that you can take in order to start to eliminate the ruminating thoughts, watch this video right here. And I'll be back with more videos for you right here on The Royal We.